Okay guys, so now that we have made our foldable and we understand that we have a leg A and a leg B, and then we have our hypotenuse, which is also leg C, and leg C is directly across from the right triangle. We're going to go ahead and set up and solve this to find the missing hypotenuse or leg C, which is the same thing. The first thing I need you to do in the center of your paper, in between problems 3 and 4, I need you to write steps to solve. So you're going to write steps to solve in the middle of your paper between problems 3 and 4. And I want you to write these steps on this page. So step 1 is to identify the right angle. Step 2 is to point to and label the hypotenuse. And when I say point to and label the hypotenuse, I simply mean that you can draw a line across directly to the hypotenuse. Okay. Step 3 is to identify and label the legs. So you're going to label the legs A and B. And then 4, you would put the values into the formula. Okay, if you need to stop the video so that you can write these down, go ahead and stop it. And then you can resume when you have written all 4 steps down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these steps. I'm going to label my right triangle, and then I'm going to put everything into the formula. So the first thing I have to do is I have to identify my right angle. And to identify my right angle is I'm just going to color it in. You can color it in with your pencil. It'll be fine. So I'm identifying my right angle. And then I'm going to point to and label the hypotenuse, because the hypotenuse is directly across from the 90-degree angle. This is your 90-degree angle. Okay? And this is leg C, also known as the hypotenuse. Also, you need to remember that C is always lowercase. Okay, don't ever write it as a capital letter. Write it as lowercase letter. Okay, so now that I know what the hypotenuse is, leg C is, now I can identify and label the legs. Well, this is leg A, and this is leg B. If you ever get confused and you're not sure which one is leg A or leg B, leg A and leg B doesn't really matter, because those two added up together are going to equal C. Okay, so the one that matters the most is leg C. So if you didn't want to label your legs the way that I have mine labeled, if let's say you wanted to label this B and this A, you would get the same number. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go back. And I said this is leg A and this is leg B for me. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the values into the formula. Well, we know the formula is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, so we know that A is 5, and that's 5 squared. Okay? And we're going to add that to leg B, and B is 3, so we're going to say 3 squared. And that's going to equal C squared. Okay, so now what I'm going to do on my calculator is I'm going to square 5, which is the same thing as saying 5 times 5, or you can use the X squared button on your calculator, which is right beside the number 7 key. Okay, so you're going to square that, and so 5 squared is 25, plus 3 squared is 9.
Lacey Williamson, if you're still at school.
Okay, so now that I have squared 5 squared and C squared, I can add those two together. And when I add 25 to 9, I'm going to get 34. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the square root of 34, and that's going to give me side C. Okay? And the square root button on your calculator is you hit second, and then you hit the X squared button, which again is right beside the 7 key. So hit second X squared button, type in 34, and if it gives you the square root of 34 again on your calculator, you can hit the double arrow keys above the inner key, and it will give you C equals 5.8. Okay, so now we're looking at problem number 2 on your paper, and we need to find leg C. Okay, so once again, I'm going to identify and label my right triangle, and I'm identifying it by coloring it in. I'm going to point to and label my hypotenuse, which is leg C. Then I'm going to identify and label my legs. This is leg A, this is leg B. Then I'm going to put the values into the formula. So I have A squared, which is 7 square, plus B squared, which is 6 square, equals C square. So now I'm going to square everything up. So 7 squared is 49. 7 times 7 is 49. Plus 6 squared is 36. 6 times 6 is 36. So when I add 49 to 36, I'm going to get 85s. So 85 equals C squared. Now I'm going to take the square root of 85 and I'm going to get C equals 9.21. Okay, if you have any questions, it's okay. Go ahead, stop the video, go back and see what questions you have, okay? And rewatch the video if you need to. Okay, so now let's look at number 3. Okay, so your number 3 doesn't have the word problems like mine does, the wording that the screen has. It just has the right triangle with legs on here. A leg A is 6, a leg B is 8. So it says Cameron walked 6 blocks due east, then 6 blocks due north. What is the shortest distance in the blocks from the point where Cameron started to where she ended? Okay, so just like anything else, okay, the triangle's already written out for you. So the first thing that we're going to do is identify the right triangle. Okay, once you go ahead and identify the right triangle, you should point to and label leg C. Then go ahead and identify and label the legs. Leg A, leg B. Okay, take a second and go ahead and write the values into the formula. Okay, so when you wrote the values into the formula, it should look like 6 square plus 8 square equals C square. Now, if you wrote it in a different order, if you wrote 8 square plus 6 square, it's fine. It's going to give you the same thing. Okay, so go ahead and square 6 square and 8 square. Okay, so when we square 6, we're going to get 36. When we square 8, we're going to get 64. Okay, so when you add those together, you should get 100. So we're going to take the square root of 100 and go ahead and see if you can find the square root of 100, and that's going to be leg C. So C equals 10. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and do this one on your own. So go ahead and identify your right triangle, point to and label the hypotenuse, then identify and label the legs, and then put the values into the formula and see if you can find C. Okay, so this is how your problem should look. So we have, this is our right triangle, this is leg C, I've point to and labeled it, and then we have leg A and we have leg B. If you said that the side that is 12 is leg B and the side that's 8 is leg A, that's fine. Okay, so into the formula we're going to say 12 square plus 8 square equals C square. Okay, so we're going to square 12 and get 144 plus 8 squared, which is going to be 64. And once you added 144 plus 64, you should get 208. And we're going to take the square root of 208, and we shall get 14.4 equals C. Okay? And once again, if you get on the square root of 208, if you get something other than a decimal, go ahead and if you get 4 to the square root of 13, hit your double arrow key, and that will put that into a decimal for you. Okay, if you have any questions, just let me know. And what you need to do is you need to go ahead and go onto Canvas and use those practice problems on Canvas.